This is episode 66 of Our Modern Heritage, the Home and Family Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jody Chaithy. In this episode, I want to talk about what to do with envy. So, I like to read a lot of personal development books, right? Growing up, my parents always had self-help, business, and finance books lying around our house. And we even took a course together when I was a teenager to work on our self-awareness. I grew up familiar with Zig Ziglar and Tony Robbins and all those gurus of personal development. Knowing this about my own family history, it won't come as a surprise that when I started to come against some major trials in my life, I sought answers from all the gurus. I started reading as many books as I can, listening to podcasts and signing up for courses. While nothing could ever replace my faith and my testimony of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ, I also know that I can seek diligently and teach words of wonder and seek out of the best books words of wisdom, seek learning even by study and also by faith. So I searched for wisdom. The wisdom I found in these books has been incredible. I feel empowered by what I've learned, and my learning has been a supplement to my faith and the knowledge I want to acquire. I've read dozens of books, but I'm only getting started. That being said, now that I have been learning for some time now, I have to say that nothing has been more inspiring, more enlightening, and more challenging than starting this podcast. I started this with the hope that I would be able to learn some ideas about family culture and developing my own family's vision and mission. While that is the case, this growth has not only come from the study and interviews that I've conducted. I can easily say that the majority of the growth I've experienced has come from the act of doing challenging things, stating my dreams out loud, and facing my insecurities about my weaknesses and my faults. Facing these insecurities has done more to shape my family culture than any amount of study ever could. Putting myself out there and having my faults glaring back at me has been one of the most difficult things I've ever done. I've not waited until I knew everything I wanted to know or until I was quote-unquote ready to start this. There is so much I want to learn and even more that I dream of doing. Sometimes it feels impossible. Often it feels impossible because I look at other influencers and other people doing what I dream of doing, and I usually look at their strengths through the lens of my weakness. Maybe that isn't fair to me and what strengths I do have, but envy is inevitable, and it's a natural part of the growth process. I think it's natural to look at other people who seem to have what we want and judge ourselves harshly. When I started this podcast, I started with this in mind, in a way. I wondered how some families seem to have it all together and seem so happy, and their kids are so well behaved. I wanted to know if what they were doing was legitimate or if it was a hollow shell representing what those families want us to see. I've seen a few families who seem to be successful fall apart. I wanted to know what it really took to have more than just the appearance of success, but actually thrive. While I'm getting closer to that answer, it has taken a lot of introspection and harrowing up my own false beliefs, insecurities, and examining my weaknesses. Much of that has come from putting myself out there in the world and doubting my capacity. Especially as I perceive so many other amazing creators' work. I can't help but envy their work and their progress. I have learned from hard experience that this envy can be very destructive. I spent too much energy feeling sorry for myself until I had the courage to do something about the way I was feeling. I'm not going to suggest that the feelings of envy are a good thing, but I want to make a few suggestions for how to turn envy around into something useful when you feel overwhelmed by feelings of inadequacy. These feelings are not uncommon as parents who observe other parents who seem to have their act together. We all know the super mom whose house is immaculate, who has a great body and crafts and cooks and has perfect makeup and has an amazing Instagram profile. I think she really exists, but that doesn't have anything to do with me. It doesn't have to. So, here are 3 best practices that I find help me deal with my struggles with envy. First, take some time to mindfully figure out why you feel the envy. Do you have a clear idea what your strengths are? Do you have a clear idea of your dreams and your vision? Can you discern whether the reasons you envy is because they are accomplishing your exact dreams? Clarify your dreams, your vision, your why, and your boundaries, what you actually are capable of doing. If you haven't done this yet, take some time to figure out what you really want. Do some service and start creating something that you are passionate about. Start doing something that inspires you. Start a vision board. Put your heart into the work in front of you. Work on your strengths rather than focusing on your weaknesses. And figure out your brand of creativity. Make a list of all the things you are thankful for and consider all the abundance in your life. Second, learn to discern how much of this envy is divine discontent, designed to inspire you, and how much of it is disabling doubts, designed to discourage you. Purge thoughts of discouragement and focus on the ones that inspire you to push forward. I had this experience just recently. I saw an amazing friend realizing a lot of success. At first, I felt really discouraged because I felt like I was doing something wrong. I used up a lot of energy coping with my self-doubt. But even while I was wallowing, I knew that there had to be something I could learn from this experience. Seeing her success gave me pause to realize that I could learn something from her example. I reached out to her and I asked what she was doing so right. She graciously responded and sent me some insight. She inspired me by her daring success to overcome my fears and clarify my dreams. It was harrowing to see my faults so deeply, but I learned from this experience how to ask for help and change what I can. Dr. James Gills is a man who completed 2 triathlons back-to-back and completed a double triathlon 6 times in his 50s. When asked how he did it, he said, "I've learned to talk to myself instead of listen to myself." He went on to say, "If I listen to myself, I hear all the reasons why I should give up. I hear that I'm too tired, too old, too weak to make it. But if I talk to myself, I can give myself the encouragement and words I need to hear to keep running and finish the race." My suggestion around that is to make or find a list of positive affirmations that you need to hear that remind you that you are a son or daughter of God and that you have inherent worth. And tell yourself those affirmations regularly. Tell yourself that you have unique gifts and talents that the world needs, and that some experiences are designed to refine you and bring out your strengths. Affirmations have the power to change your mindset and beliefs from disabling doubts to divine discontent, and ultimately to empowering actions. Number 3, take time to consider your strengths. Just because they seem to be winning, doesn't mean you're losing. Celebrate their victories. I have learned to discern based on my own vision of my life what fits me and what doesn't. It's okay if what looks like winning for someone else doesn't for me. I recently read this article about a man who had made something he called a 100 list, which led him to achieve ridiculous feats of climbing peaks, scaling walls, running marathons, and traveling to exotic locations. While I was inspired by his story and I was a little envious of all the things he had accomplished, I realized that most of the things on his 100 list would not end up on mine. I don't have any desire to run marathons or scale mountains. Those things sound really cool, and I applaud him for being such an inspirational person, but they are not for me. I have a clear idea of what my dreams are, and they aren't any less inspirational. They are mine, and they are challenging, and they inspire me. If I weren't clear about my vision, I could easily get caught up in the envy of what I see others accomplishing, even when they are things I will never, ever do. Simon Sinek says in his book, Start With Why, and I'm paraphrasing, that my brand of success won't look like your brand. It doesn't make it better or worse. If my why resonates with you, then it's better. If not, and you like someone else's why, then theirs is better for you. So we can both celebrate each other's strengths. He also said, when you compete against everyone else, no one wants to help you. But when you compete against yourself, everyone wants to help you. I take that to mean that we should always aspire to be our best self. We should never aspire to be anybody else. With all this in mind, I have recently revamped my vision for this platform, for this podcast. If you follow me on Instagram, then you have seen my stories about these changes. I learned to clarify my vision and clarify my format for each episode. Rather than having long, drawn-out conversations with my guests, I want to spell out specific principles of family culture that will serve your family. I want to clarify and clearly define what family culture means and the resources that will help you design your family culture. I will also clearly state 2 to 3 best practices that will help you implement these principles in a way that is practical and measurable. Each week, I will send out an email update to remind you to check out the latest episode when you sign up for the email list. On top of that, I will send out a monthly worksheet summarizing the best practices from that month with actionable steps to accomplish the ones that resonate with you the most. I will also work on being more present on social media. I'm not good at the amount of vulnerability required to put myself out there in the social world, but I want to. I want to have more conversations with you about these topics, and I want to do more to help you figure out what your vision and your goals look like for your family. I want you to know that I am here to support you through the tough days when you are harrowed up by your insecurities, and it can be deeply a lonely place when you're making powerful changes that others might not understand. And I get it because I'm there, and I want to experience this journey with you. So make sure that you subscribe to the email list to get the updates and the worksheets with the best practices each month. You can go to homeandfamilyculture.com to sign up. Here are a few books that I recommend that will help with this, finding your strengths and figuring out who you are to have the self-confidence to be able to either ignore the envy that you feel or see it as an opportunity to grow. The Law of Divine Compensation by Marianne Williamson. Better Than Before by Gretchen Rubin. The Sweet Spot by Christine Carter. The Power of Starting Something Stupid by Richie Norton. Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. Bully-Proofing You by Jeannie Sisko-Meth. The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. The Anatomy of Peace by the Arbinger Institute. And Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. These all are amazing books that help you to bring out your strengths, to look at vulnerability as opportunity to grow, and to let go of judgment and fear. So go check those out. Come over to homeandfamilyculture.com where you can see my links, and they are affiliate links so that if you purchase through those links, you are supporting our modern heritage. Thank you so much for listening. I love getting your feedback. You can like, rate, and share on your favorite broadcasting medium or social media platform. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest at Family Culture Podcast, and on Twitter at _Family Culture. Come check out my show notes with all the details and resources at homeandfamilyculture.com. Oh, and if you're ever interested in starting a podcast, if you've ever thought about it, you're considering it or thinking about it, there's a really great resource, and you can check it out at homeandfamilyculture.com/podcast websites. I use podcast websites, and it has been an amazing way to be able to run this podcast. The ability to create a website has been the easiest I've ever experienced, and everything around just generating the podcast and posting it and being able to put timestamps and show notes and everything like that has been so easy. And the platform of the website is just, everything is laid out so that you can promote yourself and to be able to create really a business around starting your podcast. And so that's been a phenomenal resource and an investment into creating something powerful with this platform. So go check that out at homeandfamilyculture.com/podcast websites. Thank you again for listening. Mother Teresa once said, "If you want to change the world, go home and love your family."